Live, man. It's your boy Hot Rod, of course, hosting another one. Um, Man, I just want to say I hope everyone had a great weekend. Shit, mine was pretty fairly quick. Shout out to the Birds, man. Shout out to the Eagles who had that victory last night with a brutal damn game against the Detroit Lions. Say what y'all want about Jalen Hurts, man. Listen, he's him. All right, I know people may hate his style of play. People right now even saying sub and put Tanner McKee in, but listen, not yet, man. It's hard to do that when the guy's winning. So shout out to the Birds, man. Uh, but like today's topic, I'm gonna dive into it, man. It was just some thoughts that came into mind today, and I just wanted to know, like, yo, what season in life are you in right now, right? Um, a lot of times when people are going through different transitions, especially around this time of the year, I always say, like, this is where we have these thoughts, right? It becomes grind season. It's dark outside. It's early, right? It's even though it's early, it's dark outside. It's getting cold. We kind of just like cave in until next summer, right? And then we start doing the Chris Brown over the shoulders, and then you going back and playing around outside. But around this time is always just interesting to me, like how our mind always have that shift, and we start to think about whether it's our jobs, right? Whether it's our relationship with family, friends, whatever the case may be. Um, a lot of times people feel as though they got to isolate themselves, eliminate people out of their life, whatever the case may be. But to me, for me, it's either an addition or a subtraction, right? When you talk about the season in life that you're currently living in, um, I say also too, it's either you're literally healing or literally rebuilding. Um, for me, when I think about the season that I'm in, it has to be either of those two, right? It has to be either me rebuilding or me healing. Um, but for everyone is different. For everyone is different. I know that when I'm going through a transition, right, I need to isolate myself. Right? If I'm going through a heartache or a breakup, I need to isolate myself, right? If I'm looking for this change, in order for me to get to this change, I got to isolate and I got to reflect. But I know that for me during this season, right, the holiday season, you know, I kind of go on rebuilding. I know for people that come out of relationships, they go through breakups and all this other stuff. They may think, well, I just got to go through a healing stage before I rebuild. That's true. But for those who's not in that same situation, they just want to literally regroup, right? Finding a purpose. Think about your life currently right now. Are you happy? Are you satisfied in what you're doing? All the way around, right? Whether it's your job, your finances, your relationships with people, your social life in general. I know that uh, when I think about this season, what I'm stepping into, it's for me, it's rebuilding, right? Um, what am I doing right now that's helped me get to that next level? That's helped me get to that next step. Um, I know that when I isolate, I got to sit down and think about all the things that I have going in my life right now. Is it helping me get to that next step? Is it helping me get to that next level? Um, or am I impacted by people around me? Or is a circle around me either making me better or they're weighing me down, right? Um, and a lot of times you don't have to necessarily say people that are the ones that's weighing you down, right? I'm not trying to say that everybody in your life is just terrible. You just get away, if they weighing you down, just eliminate them. But no, sometimes you can put people on the shelves too as well. And I feel as though that for me, when I'm thinking about rebuilding, I'm thinking about rebranding, right? Rebranding within myself, right? Figuring out what's working right now and what's not working, right? And the things that are not working, how can I adjust? How can I make them better, right? We talk about strengths and weaknesses all the time. Um, and the things that are my strengths, how can I then, you know, expose them even more within myself? How can I make them better? And I think a lot of the times when you thinking about rebuilding, you kind of got to take that leap forward, right? That faith. You gotta take that step that a lot of times we are afraid to take, right? That fear. Because of that fear, we sometimes are afraid to overcome. Um, so we gotta take that moment to say, you know what, you know, every time I say I'm gonna try something new, I'm gonna do something different. What is it that stopped me from doing so? What am I afraid of, right? And a lot of times in life, we've at least many times we probably went this through our lives, right? Every single year, we probably have this New Year Yeah, about the new year that's coming up right now, right? It's about to be around the corner. But a lot of times we wait till that time to say, you know what, this year I'm going to try to go for this job. This year I'm going to start school. This year I want to get into a relationship. I want to lead towards that, right? I want to have a family. I want to get married. Whatever the case may your goals are. I want to, uplift my finances. Whatever your plans are. What are you doing to get to that point? Are you still stuck on doing the same things all the time, right? And you realize is not effective. Are you changing that? Like, right? Are you taking the time to say, you know what? I realized for the past 10 years I've been, talking about the same topic all the time about how am I going to improve with my life in this area. But I realized why is it not, why am I not getting past the first gear? Right? That's when you got to kind of have that conversation with yourself and say, you know what, yo, let me really regroup. Let me really rebuild here. Let me think about those things that I need to change within. Okay. So it's like, what is it that's really weighing me down? Is it maybe sometimes me realizing that, I should take that leap? I should take that. I should put that trust within myself first to say, even if I know I'm going to fall flat on my face, I've at least tried to. Because in my opinion, there's nothing more worse than when you talk about, like, people say, no, procrastination. No, I think to me, the biggest fear that I would ever have in my life is me not knowing that I tried, right? Because a lot of times we all can fail over and over and over and over again, right? And that's okay, but you always can get up, dust yourself off, and carry on and live to see another day, right? But I think it's even more worse when you don't know. You start to have that creep in your mind, a coulda, woulda, shoulda, but I didn't. I think to me that's more, man, that's that hurt that live inside you that can literally for the rest of your life can haunt you, right? That in the back of your mind, knowing, what if I had tried that? What if I had did this? Wouldn't it be an outcome right now, a different outcome right now in my life, right? Would I be more rich? Would I be more famous? Whatever the case may be, would I have more money? Would I have a family? Would I have had kids at this point in time in my life? It's no different. We all in different seasons for a different reason, right? But I think it's finding that purpose and knowing when you are rebuilding, and you are rebranding within yourself, is looking back at your track history, seeing like, yo, for the past 5 to 10 years, what is it that I've done that's actually was effective towards that plan, towards that goal, right? And the things that is not working, why am I still stuck and I'm still doing those same things over and over and over again, right? And I think a lot of times, like I said, it's because we are afraid to try that that new we are afraid to try something new, right? Something new in the sense of, you know what, I know, right, I can go through that door right there that I'm looking at, right? And I know there's maybe something behind that door, but I'm afraid to walk into it because I'm thinking about a whole bunch of things that's, a lot of negative things that creep into our mind that we automatically could just shut out and quit from doing it in an instant, right? But what if you walk through the door? What is it? What can you really lose? You know what I mean? What is it? What can you lose in literally just trying, right? So when I say what season that you're living in, you got to think about some of these things, like as far as, is it either an addition or is it either subtraction, right? And when you're talking about healing and rebranding, if you are even in the stage of your life that you feel as though you're healing, right, and you going through this journey, right? Let's say you came out of a fresh relationship and you the same one talking about how you hate this person over and over and over again, right? And then you go into the next relationship and it's the same habits, the same traits that happen, the same ending, right? You're just losing on everything. You then gotta, literally be a critique of yourself, right? You gotta be real with yourself, be honest with yourself, and take that moment to heal. Like, yo, okay, I'm going to every relationship. I'm blaming everybody else for the same thing going over and over in my life. But what is it that I'm doing wrong? There's something obviously that I'm doing wrong too, because I'm having the same outcome, right? So I then got to sit down, look myself in the mirror, right? And literally break down my habits. Be like, yo, okay, maybe these are some of the great traits that I have within myself in a relationship, but what is the same thing? Is it always a petty fight that's ending? Is it always me just blacking out on the person, spazzing out? Is it me simply just being quiet and walking away all the time instead of facing conflicts when they arise, right? Whatever the things are, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, strip down your ego and your pride and realize, all right, these are the things that are effective, but the things that's not effective, how can I then change that? So when I didn't meet that new person, I'm not having the same outcome, right? And a lot of times too, even when you're going through a healing stage, you don't even recognize when you're going through a healing stage too that you're hurting inside. You're just carrying it every day with you, right? You going from one place to the next and you thinking nothing is wrong, and then you realize you're depressed for literally months, right? And you just can't seem to figure out what is it that I'm doing, that why am I feeling this way? Why all of a sudden that I knew I was just okay the night before, but the next day something just switched, right? Things just instantly change. I'm in a funk, I'm in a mood. Now I'm more isolated, away from people more down than ever. Of course, right now, we always say between October and March, at least what I call a seasonal depression, right? Because all the things that we love to do that literally temporarily hide those pains, right, that we have. And instead of taking the time to heal, we always look forward to the spring and summer, because a lot of times fun could take that burden away until next seasonal depression comes around. So I think it's important when you're really going through that stage, right, is to really say, you know what, let me take this time to fix this problem. And a lot of times too, you might get stuck in a while. You might be stuck in a situation where you may take 6 months. Shit, sometimes it may take 6 years, right? You're going through this healing process and you're trying to figure out what's going on. But I think a lot of times what you got to be careful when you are going through that healing stage is not being stuck to the point where you realize you're trapped in it and there's no way out, right? And what I mean by that is a lot of times you may even pass beyond the simple fact that after you've been through that healing stage, you never take that next step, that next journey forward to try and go through this trial again. You get stuck in that. You get too comfortable. And I know for me, especially when I came out of a relationship, I know that I've allowed myself to be single for a long time, right? And it wasn't that I just didn't care to date anybody. I didn't want to, date anybody. Just naturally, because I've took that time to heal and then and never look to go date afterwards, I got comfortable and stuck in my own ways, where now it's my own selfish ways, right? It was a blessing, but now it's starting to become a curse. And I'm starting to realize that too, because I don't have an interest or desire. And I know in my heart of heart that don't feel right. That's not normal. Now I can't speak for everyone, right? But I can say for myself, I know I don't like that feeling. I know that I'm trying to just, I'm doing all these things that's just what I call temporary fixes, but I know it's just not feeling that void in the end of the day that I know that I want and I desire. But it's because I'm such on trying to get to this step and this level in life, that I've now put that off to the side, and now I'm realizing that biological clock is hitting, right? Every year time is moving forward, and it's, even though you're getting successful in other areas in your life, but you're realizing you still haven't filled that void. So a lot of times you got to recognize too that even when you are going through that healing journey, and it's great, right? And you got yourself all healed up, you can't then be afraid to go step outside that shell and go on and try again, because you're afraid of what the past. Because if you're still stuck on the past, that means a lot of times you probably didn't really heal. So you got to really take that time to really process and recognize those signals too as well, um, after they occurred. So, for me, it's if these are some of the lessons I've learned, even in my finances too, right? I can say that I took the time to, fix all of my finances, all of my debts, and get everything in order. But then now I don't have anything to show for it, or anything that I'm pushing forward to saying that, you know what, I can now go out there and be in a relationship and start, a companion, and bless, God be blessing, give a family and stuff like that. But once again, stuck in my whole ways because of that healing trauma, right? That trauma, that healing that I've took that time to, and I've never took any step after that to go back into the real world of dating. So, for me, it's these are some of the things I would say you got to learn within yourself, and don't allow you to get stuck in them, in those ways too as well, because literally it can prevent you from, literally catching your blessing. So when you also say like some of the habits, you know, I actually are. What is one habit that you feel in your season that you can no longer accept? Right? You have a something that and please share it in the chat. Something that you know that you have a hard no to, like, yo, I'm really not gonna go back and do this, right? Or I know that if I'm gonna take this step, I'm never gonna go to this direction again. What is it that you feel as though that you know within yourself? And please, like I said, please let me know in the chat. Like, let me know what is it that you feel as though, like, man, I you know what? I just feel as though for me personally, no matter what I do, I can never go back and give a person my complete full attention. I can never give a person full love. Um, Somebody say if you keep trying to get a point where you are ready, you never reach that point. That is facts. That is facts. That is facts. Um, Shout out to Theo. That's true. You just keep raising the bar. That's facts. You got to keep raising the bar. Someone also say it's hard to get out of those ways, seasonal depression. I mean, that's true. It's true. And Talia, what do you mean by that? Like you said, Tom, it's hard to get out of those ways when you go through seasonal depression. I'm interested to know what you feel about that too. Oh, excuse me, y'all. My phone was on lock. I mean, when I think about like that too, seasonal depression, it's hard to get out your way when you going through that. It's hard to get out that way when you're going through that. I can say that because a lot of times, even when you want to take that step, you said you were set in your ways. Yes, yeah, that's facts. Yeah, you were stuck in your ways. That's what I was about to say. Like a lot of times when when you shifted that mindset, um, when you shift your mindset literally, and you just stuck there, it really is hard to get out because now you teach yourself and you allow yourself to really restructure your whole thinking, right? Your principles, the things that you literally instill in yourself. You instill those things in yourself. Now you have a new set of core values that you really uplift. And even if someone comes along and they may convince you, uh, it's hard. It's hard to get out of that. Michigan Tally says it's not just seasonal depression. What else are you trying to say? But no, that's true because I know for me many times, um, even after the fact that when I've then shifted that mindset, right? I said to myself like, yo, you know what? I know these things are what hamper me, right? Maybe I was too soft in my relationship, right? Or maybe too soft to people in general. I always gave my energy to people, but nothing in return. And not a lot of times you would expect that, right? You don't expect to give and in return get return from people. You just think automatically like human nature. You just realize and wonder like, damn, why do I give and give so much, but then I'm not giving that same energy reciprocated back to me. We selfishly start to have these thoughts, right? But then you realize if it's taking advantage of you, and you realize people is taking advantage of you over and over and over again, that's when you then shift that mindset and you start to change those things. And once you have changed those things, it's really hard to go back because now you put all these standards in yourself, right? What you're not going to allow and tolerate no longer. That sometimes a little bit too tough on yourself. You right, you put that exterior on you, and you like, no, I'm not. It's like someone's gonna have to now break down this wall when they come into my life, right? And a lot of times I know that's not good because that's when you literally could be possibly blocking your own blessing, because you're now you're getting in your own way, stuck in your ways. So I just feel as though like that is true when it comes even when it comes to seasonal depression too. It's hard to get out of that funk. Like for me, I love to tell people when the springtime come around, you ain't seeing no one else smiling. And Natalia can tell you that. Other people in the chat can tell you too. Natalia knows I'll be the one smiling and grinning when springtime and summertime come around. It's because I know like yo, shit, I'm outside now, right? I'm about to have fun. I'm about to enjoy myself, do all my favorite activities and things, go to the places I like to enjoy. But I know in season of depression, like all those things that I love is now literally blocked, right? I can't be outside going hiking, right? Jogging, running, going out to certain outdoor bars and restaurants or whatever case may be, traveling as much as I would have versus in the wintertime, right? And yeah, you can find alternate ways to still enjoy yourself. No one's not saying that, but the things that you really love to do out in nature is taken away from you. That will cause you to naturally go into isolation. And I know that for me, and when I'm in that state, I'm in that mode, like season depression. If I don't find things to occupy myself, yeah, I can be like less in conversations with people. I'm not as approachable. I may come off standoffish. You might look at me, you just think I'm upset and angry, but I'm not. It's just I'm in this funky mood, and I don't know how to snap out of it because I'm not used to this 6 months out of the year. No matter how many times I got to go through this year in and year out, I never get accustomed and used to it because I know I just don't like this feeling. So then this allows me to kind of back off from having relationships with people for a long time until I really have to snap out of that. And snapping out of that ain't just an easy, quick fix either. So you said, for instance, no one can ever buy something for me because they don't know what to buy. Because if I want something, um, hold on, because if I want something, I go get it. I don't wait for anyone. Ooh, facts. You dropping bars over here. Definitely about dropping bars over here. Um, yeah, but I believe that. I believe like you got to kind of know when it comes to your own season of life, what are you pushing forward for? Is it an addition? Is it a subtraction? Is it healing or is it rebuilding? I know a lot. Like you said, you got to know that difference within yourself and kind of figure that out. I remember Metallic. I think he was telling me something earlier before I had jumped on a live on if it's a fantasy. Is it a fantasy of? You said wait. You said is the fantasy of life in the season? Uh, and I was saying like sometimes like fantasies are temporary fixes, right? I feel like fantasies can be temporary fixes in the sense of you can. It's up to you to make things happen, essentially, right? When it in your life, when you want changes to be done, it's similar to rebuilding. You got to be able to fix that. Now, it is easier said than done, right? Because in your reality right now, maybe for me, my reality, I mean, I have the funds to do to make the my fantasy work and do the things I want to do that I fantasize, but I know the reality that may not be the case. So, but I know, like for me, it's what steps am I going to take to get to that point, right? To get to that fantasy, that dream, whatever goals that I desire. What steps am I taking? I think that's a very interesting, a very interesting take. To have when you're saying that. But for me, it personally is getting it is you taking those leaps forward, like you figuring out for yourself, like what am I doing right now currently to get to that point, to that goal that I'm doing. What are the changes and adjustments I need to do in order to get to that goal, to make that fantasy happen. And a lot of times we know the answers too. A lot of times you know what's blocking your blessing, but it's those things subconsciously in our mind that we fight all the time, which is fear of changing, right? You know this job is no longer serving you a purpose, but you're so comfortable in it that it's hard to leave and escape. And the same thing for a relationship. You know this relationship no longer holds value to you, but we hold on because it's so comfortable. It's within arm reach, right? It has easy access. It gives you easy access to everything else that you have right now in your life. So you then can't just jump ship. You can't just leave that person relationship, even when you feel in your heart of heart this is no longer serving you. So I think like no matter what it is though, you kind of got to break away from that fear, um, and make those changes happen. You say I'll be blocking my own blessings 80% of the time. Yeah, that ain't good, sis. You can't be blocking your blessings 80% of the time. People would rather be miserable with someone than miserable and alone for sure. That is true. That is true. I agree with that. A lot of times people know that, like I said, they know that this is no longer serving them and they just stay in the relationship instead of being reality. I mean, I know, like I said in the previous episode, it took me months until I knew I had to end a relationship. And I knew it was no longer, at that time, it no longer served me any value. And I was just staying in it for no reason, knowing that, this is not going to work out. But because I was so comfortable knowing what I had access to, if you know what I mean, too, I had access to those other things, too. And an emotional, physical standpoint, we all know it is what it is. When you have those things, though, you don't want to kind of give none of those things away because you like, yo, damn, like you talking about seasonal depression. That's even more depression right there. You just give that thing up, and you don't. And especially if you're not a person who's out here just going reckless too. You ain't just trying to be around just with anybody. You know what I mean? So you sometimes may take that extra shit that person is fucking digging into you all the damn time, but you like, I can't, I need that, right? I need them yams, so I ain't gonna get it up. I might deal with it for the next until the season depression is over, and that's fucked up to say that, right? Like, yo, I'm gonna just deal with this bullshit for now, and then like I said, come springtime, Chris Brown over the shoulders, throw it into the water, and give it back to the fucking sea, and they're like, yo, go swimming, man, and you go out there and have fun, but like on some shit though, it's like that's how it is. We're selfish. We're human beings in that ways. We're selfish human beings. Even when we know something is not working well for us, we be like, yo, we just gonna do that. You said honesty was what? I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. So something was a lifestyle, but yeah, man, it's tough. We just shit. We all fall into that trap, but it comes to a point in time you do eventually wake up. Like all jokes aside, like you a lot of times, even you look past someone's physical attributes, you just like, this ain't, you said be nasty. Well, facts though, like you just realize after a certain time, like, yo, this ain't it. Like you do eventually get tired of it. You gonna choose yourself first in the end of the day. And then sometimes it may take some people weeks to months to damn years to get out of that, right? But when you eventually get tired over and over, and you're like, I just gotta get out of this situation and get out of this funk. Because in your heart of heart, this don't feel right. So that's what I'm asking y'all. What season is your life in? When you're trying to push into the right direction, uh, where you at? Where are you right now in your life? You know, are you healing? Are you rebranding? What lesson that you feel as though you had in this season you forced to learn? Let me know in the chat what y'all think, man. Thank y'all for coming on. Another episode will be on Thursday. I call Thursdays Ladies Night, so please bring all your lady friends with you. Hot Rods Blazing Topics, YouTube Live. I'll see y'all later.